Tonight on the CFL Report, the highlights from Week 7 in Canadian football. A preview report on the game of the week, the Argos and the Lions live from BC Place. And the Rockford File, a close-up look at Hamilton defensive back Jim Rockford. TSN CFL Report. It's our game around here, brought to you by Carling O'Keefe Brewery. Hello, everyone. Welcome to TSN CFL Report. Week 7, and the Stampeders finally snapped the jinx. It was close, but a one-point win over Ottawa means a lot in Calgary. And the Argos make it 4 in a row with a 3-point victory over the Eskimos. The highlights from Week 7 coming up a little later. Little change in the standings, except the Argos held top spot in the Eastern Division for a day until the Blue Bombers jump back in front on Saturday. The idle Tiger Cats cling to third. Ottawa remains fourth. In the West, the front-runners both lost. BC and Edmonton remain tied for top spot with 8 points, but the Lions still have a game in hand. And the Stamps are out of the West Division basement, a point ahead of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. A preview of Week 8 coming up. Right now, Peter Watt's CFL Notebook.
Thank you, John. I'm spending this week in Montreal taking part in the Players International tennis coverage here on TSN, but there is a little time to talk about football, and since we're in Montreal, who better to talk about it with than Don Sweet, a former great member of the Alouettes, and until Sunday, the holder of the CFL record for the most consecutive field goals. Time goes on, and records are made to be broken, and Dean Dorsey did it.
I think you said it perfectly. Records are to be broken. There are a few left around, but most importantly, Dean Dorsey does deserve it. He's proven he's probably the most consistent kicker ever in the CFL. He came through. I just felt very disappointed that he missed that short, what was it, a 14-yarder for the 24th, which would have given him the American record as well as Canadian, which I was hoping he would have done. If he's going to beat mine, he may as well go to 30, you know, whatever.
Don, what about the legacy of football? With the Alouettes gone now, there's still a pretty thriving junior program in this part of the country and also a couple of college teams. What about football here? Where does it stand at the moment, and can the interest be revived in pro football?
I can't say that the interest will be revived in professional football, but I know that the Quebec junior program, amateur program, Peter, is a tremendous program they put together. There's a lot of people that spend a lot of time in volunteer work. Last night, Peter De La Riva, bringing back some old names, Chuck McMahon, myself as the MC, and Bob Geary, the main speaker, put on a banquet on the West Island, and we expected about 100 or 120 people, and we ended up with close to 200 people, so it was really a lot of fun. They're interested. It was almost a cry, though. It was a heartbroken cry, the fact that the Alouettes are no longer there, but at the same time, maybe we as the fans are partially to be blamed.
A lot of people talked about the fact that you could not draw the French-Canadian fan into the football games, and that was part of the demise. If anything, perhaps the Alouettes lost track of the English-speaking population in this part of the country as well.
I think they did. I think that your first, let's say, of 30,000 people, I would have to say about 80% of them are going to be your Anglophone. Once you get the big numbers of 45, 50, and 60, then you're going to talk about the Francophone, who doesn't quite understand the game the same as the English person. But I really have to say, after a lot has come out and a lot has not been said, the Montreal Alouettes did not really put out as far as promotions. There was a lot of monies that they held back. They must have known exactly what was going to happen, but there was a $100,000 TV promotion that did not face. There was other situations where they put the clamp on it, and I just feel bad for the people in Montreal, for myself too, that played. The fact that why weren't we given that last hurrah, the last cry? Why wasn't there a 72-hour, do or die? Because I'm sure the people in Montreal would have rallied.
Why wasn't there what we saw in Saskatchewan last winter and in Calgary last year?
That's exactly what I mean, yeah.
Do you think pro football can come back here to Montreal in some form?
I don't know. In some form. That's a key line you use there, and I'll say yes, because I know a couple of people now, Robbie Burns and Chuck McMahon, who are pursuing this arena football, which I think is great. I think it's tremendous.
Well, we'll see what happens. Don, thanks for being with us.
Okay.
Don Sweet, and I'm Peter Watts, and that's CFL Notebook for this week.
Thanks, Peter. A couple of CFL milestones in Week 7. Those stories coming up in highlight form on TSN's CFL Report. Welcome back to the CFL Report. Coming up later, Leif Pedersen picks the Week 8 winners. And we've got the Game of the Week on TSN. Thursday, live from BC Place, the Argos and the Lions. Right now, a quick look back to Week 7, starting with the Argos and the Eskimos. Friday in Toronto.
50-yard line.
This one took its toll on quarterbacks. Here in the third quarter, Rodney Harding chases down Edmonton's Matt Dunnigan and falls on him for the sack. Dunnigan had to leave the game with an injured hamstring and won't play again until September. Later in the game, Argo backup John Congemi thrown down hard by Danny Bass. Congemi left with a slight concussion, but he'll play again this week against the Lions in BC. Minutes later, Gilbert Renfro tossed a beautiful 44-yard strike to Ken Joyner. Great catch by Joyner, and the Argos moved into a 10-point lead at 23-13. Late in the fourth, Brian Kelly writes his name into the record books. Great catch for his 89th career TD, a new CFL record. But despite Kelly's heroics, the Argos win at 23-20. With the Argonaut win, the Blue Bombers fell back to second place and looked to regain top spot at the expense of the Lions. Early second quarter, Lions deep in Bomber territory. Roy DeWalt bobbled the snap. Ty Jones says thank you, Roy, and rumbles 92 yards for the game's first major. The Bombers out in front of the Lions, 13-3. Later in the quarter, the Bomber offense takes over. Tom Clemens combines with slot back Perry Tuttle. 73 yards on this scoring strike. Winnipeg out in front, 20-9 at halftime. And the Bomber defense held the Lions to one late touchdown. BC quarterback sacked a total of 5 times in all. Winnipeg back in first in the East with a 30-22 win. Finally to Lansdowne Park, Ottawa, where both the Rough Riders and the Stampeders were desperate for a victory. Good numbers for Ottawa quarterback Todd Dillon, 414 yards, including 52 on this bomb to Gerald Alphen early in the third. The Riders in front 24-10. And Dean Dorsey from 41, his 22nd consecutive field goal, breaking the old mark set by Montreal's Don Sweet. Fourth quarter, Stampeders down 38-10, but they come back from the dead, scoring 4 touchdowns. This one on a plunge by Tim Petros put the Stamps in front. Ottawa with a chance to win, but Dorsey misses from 45 yards out. Glenn Harper runs it out of the end zone, and Calgary hangs on for a 1-point victory. A close one, but the Stampeders finally turn a horrible 6-game losing streak around with a dramatic comeback over Ottawa. Now, the Rough Riders are getting slightly desperate for a victory. Ottawa's next game is Sunday in Saskatchewan. It may be tough. The Western Rough Riders have looked sharp lately. More on that game and the rest of the Week 8 matchups a little later. And right now, the TSN Players of the Week. Friday night in Toronto, Argo wide receiver Ken Joyner gave the Edmonton secondary all it could handle. The second-year grad from Kentucky State caught 5 passes for 102 yards. And Joyner got the game winner. A great catch in the fourth quarter as the Argos handed the Eskimos their 6th straight defeats at Exhibition Stadium.
Makes a good catch.
From Saturday's game in Winnipeg, Bomber running back Willard Reeves continuing to stake a solid claim as the league's best running back. The 5-year veteran ground down the BC defense for 115 yards on 22 carries. Reeves now leads the league in rushing with 706 yards. From Sunday's game in Ottawa, the Stampeders finally found the winning formula. Wide receiver Larry Willis was one of the main ingredients. The sophomore wideout from Fresno State caught 10 passes for a whopping 177 yards. The Stamps stopped their losing streak at 6.
Down at the 18-yard line by Larry Willis.
Still ahead, TSN's Canadian Players of the Week and a close-up look at Hamilton defensive back Jim Rockford. This is the CFL Report on TSN. Welcome back to the CFL Report. Still ahead, Leif Pedersen, our ace prognosticator, picks the Week 8 winners. Here now, TSN's Canadian Stars from Week 7.
Comes over to get him, but
this week's runner-up, Calgary fullback Tim Petros. The second-year grad from the University of Calgary ran for 48 yards on 9 carries. Petros also added a pair of touchdowns, including the game winner as the Stampeders topped the Ottawa Rough Riders.
So by Stuart Hill, he's
TSN's outstanding Canadian for Week 7 goes to Toronto guard Dan Ferroni. The 6-year veteran from Simon Fraser anchored an offensive line that held the tough Eskimo front 7 in check throughout most of the game. The Argos' offensive line a big reason for success of late. And guard Dan Ferroni of the Argonauts, TSN's outstanding Canadian for Week 7 in the CFL. Time for a close-up look at a relative newcomer to the Canadian Football League. Defensive back Jim Rockford joined the Tiger Cats for the '86 playoffs. He made an impact with an early touchdown, Grey Cup Sunday in Vancouver.
It took Jim Rockford a while, but he's finding out that life in the Canadian Football League isn't that bad. Rockford is a hard hitter, and he's earning a reputation for having a nose for the football.
Like Howard Field said to me, he says, look, I've been in the league 7 years. He said, I haven't scored a touchdown. He says, you get the ball twice, and every time you score a touchdown, we win, and you've got 2 touchdowns in 3 or 4 games. He says, this is ridiculous. I told him, it's a 100% effort from like everybody. If Walk hadn't hit that guy, and the ball hadn't taken that bounce, and I wasn't going at that time, and people weren't rushing hard from the backside, maybe someone else could have picked up the ball. So big plays are great. People say you make big plays happen. I think big plays are sort of a thing that come along from hard work.
Rockford is no stranger to hard work. He's a product of one of the most successful college football programs in the United States. He played at the University of Oklahoma from 1981 to '84 and was an assistant coach on the 1985 NCAA championship team. The experience was invaluable.
The things I learned at Oklahoma under Coach Switzer and my defensive back coach were a lot of good habits. I learned all those habits at Oklahoma, how to lift, working, how I view the game, how I study the game. And believe it or not, my first year in the NFL, I was doing a lot of things that a lot of the other vets didn't even think about doing.
2 attempts at the NFL proved to be unsuccessful, but he has no regrets about the past.
I got drafted and everything, and I was 1 man away from making an NFL team, but I really think that here, where you can really learn how to play defensive back, and you have to learn different things because of the wide field, but you really can make yourself a professional, I really think, and with the wide receivers and the quarterbacks in this league.
Rockford's happy in Hamilton, but I always wondered what happens when you get a guy that went to Oklahoma playing on the same team as a guy that went to rival Oklahoma State.
It's been one of the lowest parts of my career. Everybody says you have to make sacrifices. I've made a big sacrifice playing with a guy from Oklahoma State.
Ken?
It's really hard to come back with something like that. I really can't believe that somebody, well, I'll take that back. I can believe somebody from Oklahoma would say something like that.
Uh-oh.
There's no respect at all.
Look, you guys...
Well, you just can't get away from it, can you? Mark Jones for the CFL Report. Now back to John.
Jim Rockford, the new face in the Hamilton Veteran Secondary. Week 8 in the CFL kicks off with our game of the week Thursday on TSN, the Red Hot Argos and the Lions at BC Place, Vancouver. Just before Leif Pedersen picks the winner, preview reports on both teams. First up, the Argos story.
Darnell Clash has named his teammates in the secondary just a matter of time. They were once the whipping boys and weak link in the Argo defense. Now, they're the big reason for Toronto's recent success.
Well, I definitely think he has the right idea about it being a matter of time. Early weeks when he and Rick got here, we really didn't even know each other's last names. Now we've had a chance to work together, fill each other out, know who's going to be where, when, and we feel like we're really coming around right now.
We got our confidence up, and we feel like we're getting some respect around the league. And yeah, we feel like we've proved that we can play up here, and we're going to keep proving it every week.
For Clash, the game against British Columbia is something special. He'll be going up against his old teammates and wants nothing more than to put on a show.
I'm anticipating big things to happen for me. I know for a fact they're gonna, come my way throwing the ball, and I hope I can pick up a good pass because I haven't an interception yet. But not only that, I'm really looking forward to returning the, punt returns because that's my biggest thrill there, and I'm really looking forward to getting things together because it's just a matter of time, me putting everything together and getting back on track again. I mean, it's a long season. I'd rather do it when it really counts, and I want to get up there where I belong and with the best of them.
Nice effort, Darnell. If the secondary is going to be successful in this one, then they'll have to keep close tabs on Jim Sandusky. He and Clash are by no means strangers.
he's a heck of a receiver. He's dynamite. He's a receiver. One thing I really respect about Sandusky is that he's a competitor, and he's going to make you work to get what you can get. And if anything near Sandusky, he's going to catch the ball. You got to really pressure Sandusky, and he's an outstanding receiver. He's another Steve Largent or Brian Kelly.
Quarterback Gilbert Renfro has been doing his best to keep the Argonaut defense off the field. He's 4-0 as a Toronto starter. He's aware of British Columbia's blitzing linebackers, but thinks that he can exploit the secondary.
I think that the secondary isn't as strong as people think they are. I think their front line kind of covers up for them a little bit. So we're going to try to exploit them by picking up some of the stuff they do up front.
Right now, we feel like this week we're playing one of the upper echelon teams of the league, and this will give ourselves a chance to show us where we are at.
You really couldn't blame Coach Bob Obilovich if he started to blow his own horn.
He'd been saying all along that once the Argonauts get healthy, they would start stringing a few wins together. Come to think of it, you'd have to think long and hard to remember the last time Toronto won 4 games in a row. But the way the secondary is playing, number 5 could be just a matter of time. Now with a look at the British Columbia Lions, let's join David Pratt in Vancouver.
Thanks, Mark. Over the past couple of years, the Lions have not made a habit out of losing, but they have had their experience with it. In '86, for example, the Lions lost 4 in a row. Ultimately, it cost them first place.
5.5. This year, the slump has hit earlier in the season. First in Hamilton. And it's intercepted. Zambiazzi. Does he get to the end zone? Yes, he does. Touchdown. Then in Winnipeg, the problems continued.
DeWalt fumbles the exchange from center. It's picked up by Winnipeg's Tyrone Jones, and he might go all the way.
Well, we've got to turn the train around. Right now, the last 2 weeks, we've been heading in the wrong direction. We haven't been helped an awful lot because we sustained some more injuries, but we've got some good players. We've got to put everything behind us, go out and play 60 minutes of good football, see if we can't turn this thing around.
As for the players, they are very much aware that football is only a team sport if you're part of the team.
You start worrying about your job. You don't like losing, and we're not used to losing out here, so it's usually probably the first things you figure out what you can do better as an individual and try to, if you're not making some plays that you could be making, you find a way to improve on it in practice. You get a little more intense in practice. Like we've all said, we haven't played that badly, but we haven't played that great either. And I think we have to go with that attitude that, yeah, we got to go and play great this week to get it turned around. And I think Toronto's going to have to play real well to beat us because we're pretty hungry.
A slump, even for a veteran team like the Lions, always results in a return to the basics. On offense, the Lions have lived and died on their ability to get the ball to Jim Sandusky. Against the Argos, Ned Armour will return, and good taste in television will not be enough. The Lions will need to see some of Armour's old form.
Sandusky had him there. Touchdown pass into the end zone. Ned Armour picked it up.
On defense, the big play has been missing.
Ventrum throws an interception. It was behind the receiver. It was almost too easy for Mel Bird.
People like Mel Bird, Greg Stuman, and John Ulmer at middle linebacker are going to be keys in turning the defense around. As for the fans in Vancouver, it does not take that much for them to turn this support into a wave goodbye.
Well, we are in first place, and our fans, I'm sure, will come out and get behind us. But, when you pay your money to go to a football game, you get the chance to say whatever you like. And certainly they've earned that right by buying a ticket. And so we're going to try to earn their respect back by playing harder.
The trouble with football fans, whether they're on the West Coast or the East Coast, is that for the most part, they have pretty short memories. And despite the fact the Lions will go into the Toronto game at a tie for first place, the question still remains, what have you done lately? Now back to you, John.
Thanks, Dave. We think it's going to be a good game. We'll have it for you live Thursday night, 10 o'clock Eastern on TSN, the Argos and the BC Lions. Leif Pedersen joins me now, and we're going to do the hottest team in Canadian football, the Argos. What's happened?
Well, they're really playing good football, John, and I think one of the biggest reasons why is that they just don't beat themselves. They're not throwing that interception or coughing up the football at the wrong time. They're playing good, solid football. They're getting excellent play from their special teams, and a young guy named Gil Renfro has done pretty well for them at quarterback.
Now, what's the difference in Renfro's performance this year with the Argonauts compared to last year when he was quite mediocre with Ottawa?
Well, it's just 2 different teams. Ottawa was a bad football team this last year. Toronto this year is a darn good football team, and he's getting lots of time to throw. He's not back there running for his life, and that offensive line's done a tremendous job. I think that's really one of the main reasons why Toronto's played so well.
A closer look at our game, the TSN Game of the Week, as well as the rest of the Week 8 matchups when we continue on TSN CFL Report. welcome back to the CFL Report on TSN. Leif Pedersen goes to 33% in Week 7. Got one out of 3.
Yeah, not a good weekend. But you know, Friday night's game, I got to check. Do you have the black armband on? Your Eskimos lost. I had picked Edmonton, but you know what? Sometimes, even though your pick doesn't win, you're still happy, because I was happy to see Toronto beat them.
Oh, yeah, but you're always happy when Toronto wins as well.
Sure.
17-8-1 in the season, still a pretty good year going.
Not too bad. Ottawa cost me on the weekend. Dorsey, 23 of 23, and then he folds, can't kick one from there to win the game. So, I don't know, they cost me a pick too.
Key matchup in our game on Friday night, BC plays the Argos and the Lions.
Well, I think as you look at this game, Toronto's really done a great job protecting the quarterback this year. Last year they were horrendous, but this year they've improved. But BC's front seven is tough, and I think this will be the true test for the Argonauts this year. Can they protect Gil Renfro or John Conjemi against this really tough BC defense?
Let's see how it stacks up in Leif Pedersen's mind, and it looks pretty even as you look down the X's on both sides of the board. You're calling it even in 4 categories, and giving a slight advantage to the Lions in the secondary.
Yeah, they've got a great defensive secondary. BC does. Nelson Martin, Larry Crawford, and all the fellas. But as you can see by the X's, it is a tight game, close game. Toronto always plays well out under the dome, and I suspect they'll play well this week. But you've got to give BC just a little bit of edge. The more pressure on them. They've lost 2 in a row. They need a win.
So you like the Lions in that one? How about Friday night? Winnipeg-Hamilton, key matchup there.
Well, this is another great game, and Winnipeg has a real knack of taking Perry Tuttle, their inside receiver, and they put 3 receivers to one side, and they get a blitzing situation. That means Paul Bennett, the middle safety, has to cover Tuttle. Last week, it was Nelson Martin against Tuttle in the BC game, and they got a big play out of it. Winnipeg can do that again. So I think Tuttle against maybe Bennett you could watch as a key matchup.
This one will be close again. Who do you like? Who's going to win it?
Well, I have to go with the Bombers. You know, they came back and they won after defeat at Winnipeg, and they played well last weekend. Hamilton's struggling just a touch, and I give the nod to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
All right, even in 2 categories, Friday in Hamilton. Now, Sunday, Ottawa at Saskatchewan. Both teams desperate for a victory.
Yeah, this is a real thriller, isn't it?
Well,
Ottawa,
Saskatchewan's been coming on.
Well, they have, and in Ottawa, geez, they should have won that game last weekend against Calgary. They're going to kick themselves at the end of the year because, you know, those 2 points are hard to come by, and that might have cost them something. But it's an even game. They're both struggling, and very tough to predict.
Tough? Are you going to pick a winner?
Well, I'll pick a winner. I think Ottawa is going to win out at Taylor Field.
In Taylor Field?
Yeah, in Taylor Field. I'm going to go with Ottawa once more. They get one more chance. And Dorsey, you better come through.
I've just been kind of impressed by the way the Rough Riders have played the last couple of games. They were in the game against Edmonton, in the game against Hamilton.
Yeah, they were. Tom Burgess, you know, he maybe is coming around a little bit, but I just think that, like Calgary has been doing, Saskatchewan shoots himself in the foot. They get something going, and then something happens, and it's gone.
Let's check out the X's on this matchup. Ottawa at Saskatchewan Sunday. Rushing and passing to the Ottawa Rough Riders, front 7 to Saskatchewan, secondary dead even, and special teams to Ottawa. So let's hope you have a better week than last week. 33% is not sufficient.
Look, I'm still, don't get on me here, I'm still doing really well for the year. I'm up about 70%. I mean, who else can predict that well? That's not bad.
All right, that wraps up this edition of the CFL Report on TSN. Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern, TSN's Game of the Week, the Argos and the Lions. And a week from today, another edition of the CFL Report. Thanks for watching.
TSN CFL Report. It's our game around here, brought to you by Carling O'Keefe Brewery.